Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian, I'm his son Jeff Kurkjian. Dad back in the basement studio. You're hanging out. Decor's still up. You watched my daughter while I was at work this morning.
Everything's fine. We had a bathroom accident, but I changed my pants, so we're all good. Everything's okay. She's 2, I'm 69, not the point. So.
You both are going through similar issues, right, with bladder. You can't start to pee, she can't stop. Sorry.
And then we went to Chick-fil-A for lunch. And,
the three of us did, yeah.
And 3 tables away was a woman, older woman, not as old as me, but she's wearing a sweatshirt that said, I love baseball and maybe 3 people. That's what the sweatshirt said. So... Look, I hope this is going to come across as terribly pretentious, but right behind us where we were sitting was like a play area for kids, and I didn't recognize that, and she waved at me. She looked right at me, and she waved at me, so I thought maybe she recognized me, that I'm one of the baseball guys at ESPN, and she's wearing this baseball shirt. Well, as I found out, she was actually waving at her son or her grandson who was in the play area. But I did go over to say, hey, I love your sweatshirt. And she said, thanks, I love baseball. But she had no idea who I was, which she's not supposed to. But that's one of those where you never, ever assume anything. The point is, there was a grown woman wearing a sweatshirt that said, I love baseball and maybe 3 people.
That was kind of my upbringing, is you basically had that tattooed on your head. I love baseball and maybe 3 people. And that was Mom, Jeff, and Kelly, which was so perfect. It's so beautiful. No, Dad, I totally understand. She was definitely waving at her kid, but It was adorable nonetheless. Would have made for a great story if she said, love the podcast, but instead... It didn't work out that way.
Right over her head. But she did mention something about my outfit that I'm wearing today, which you wore the same thing or something similar last week, and then blasted me for not knowing that you look like Harrison Ford, Han Solo. So who do I look like with this on?
You're giving Marty McFly today.
McFly, there we go. Right, Back to the Future, right. Ronald Reagan's the president. Who's the vice president? Jerry Lewis? Very underrated movie. I thought it was really funny. Yes.
Way more than a cult classic. An instant classic. Absolutely incredible. I love what you decided to do with your vest. I asked you when you walked into our house, should I go get mine and we should match? And we used to pick up Mom and Kelly at the airport matching suits as if we were limo drivers.
Right.
I think I'm a little bit beyond that at age 32 to be matching with my dad. Nonetheless, adorable. And today, Dad, we're going to get to baseball, of course, because... we're a baseball podcast.
That's what we do, right.
But it's the first day of the Masters.
Right.
This is an incredible time.
Right. And we love golf, Jeff, and we don't play much anymore, and you're a pretty good player, and I used to be much better. I stink now. Hardly the point.
In fact, when people ask me, do you play much golf anymore? Ha! That's my response.
Right. You have a 2-year-old and another one due in June. You will never play again.
And I got this full-time job on the radio, and then this just dragging behind podcasts as often as I can get to.
All right, so Jeff, last year we did the Kurkjian Conundrum many times, and we haven't used it this year, but we're going to pull it out.
Okay.
A question we asked last year. Okay, right. Jeffrey Kurkjian, 20 handicap, let's say, okay?
That's about accurate.
You're going to fight, you're going to really fight like crazy to break 90 at, a 5,800, 6,000-yard white tees course, little Muni course. It's hard. It's a really hard game. All right, so Jeff, you have a 6-shot lead at the Masters. Going to 18. You're in the same group as Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh, goodness.
And it's Sunday, so the course is lined with people. And you have a 6-shot lead at the 18th at the Masters. Over these 2 guys, can you hold a 6-shot lead with 1 hole to play at the Masters with your game as it's constituted right now?
So I think it's important to explain the 20 handicap, which I am more or less, right? I'm like a lot of players, okay? And I'm not keeping a hard handicap. Last time we did something like this, a lot of people came after us on Facebook for saying that we tee the ball up in the fairway. That doesn't mean literally tee it up in the fairway. What it means is you just kind of like bloop, bloop,
Look,
give yourself that little
called
favor.
winter rules, Jeff.
Right.
You can roll the ball in the fairway
Terrible.
during winter,
Right.
when the conditions are terrible.
And I only play with people who play that way. Right. I would never play that way against someone counting every shot. And then anyway, the point is I'm a terrible golfer. And if you're a 20 or an 18 handicap out there, then you're like me and you answer this for yourself. Would you be able to keep a 6-stroke lead on 18 at the Masters?
Right. And it's a par 4, Jeff. And
Right.
you have to think that both guys, at worst, are going to par the hole.
Yeah.
So you have to make a 9. You might have to make an 8, because if somebody birdies, you have to make an 8.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm absolutely not keeping my 6-stroke lead. And the main reason, this is going to sound crazy, the main reason is I've never played in front of a crowd, right? And if I shank one off the tee because of the pressure and I hit somebody in the forehead, I'm completely rattled and I'm done. Like I'm not going to be able to come back from that.
Right.
And this is the hardest course I've ever played. Clearly,
By far.
It's
You've
not
never
even,
been in that rough. You've
Longest
never been
par
in bunkers
4.
like that. You've never been on a green like that. You've never played in front of people like this. And you're playing with arguably the 2 best players in the world. You are guaranteed to make a 10. You might go, wait, and I'm not just talking about you, Jeff. I'm talking about any 20 out there who really doesn't understand the pressure of playing at Augusta.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Now, you can weigh in and let us know if you think a 20 handicap can hold. I mean, we do Kurkjian Quandaries like this all the time. We've done, can the Kurkjian family hold a how many point lead against the Boston Celtics?
40 points with 2 minutes to go. Answer, we're not.
The point
is... But this is with my mother and father still alive, and those things are not happening, Jeff. And by the way, if you roll the ball in the fairway at the Masters, it's a penalty shot, and most people don't even know the rules of golf. You might violate a penalty. You'll have a caddy there to explain.
First
to
time ever,
right? But the caddy won't be able to help you.
Yeah.
So
I would go to my caddy. What should I hit here? And he would say, whatever you can hit straight.
Well, Davy Johnson, the late Davy Johnson. I asked him this question. Now, Davy was a really good player and a Major League Baseball player and a Major League manager, so he knows how to deal with the pressure. And a really good golfer. So I think I said to Davey once years ago, could you hold a 2-shot lead at the Masters? 2-shot lead. I'm giving you a 6-shot lead. And I insulted Davey. He goes, 2-shot lead? I'm going to birdie that son of a bitch. What are you, crazy? But Jeff, the difference is he's a major league player who's used to playing in the World Series and in big time situations. You are a talk show host on the radio. And imagine just looking at Scotty Scheffler after he stripes 1 3-10 up the hill, and you're up third. Well, yeah, you would be up third for sure. Right. Okay.
Not like I'm leading off that threesome.
All right. Just a Kurkjian Conundrum for the day, just to kick off the Masters, because we love the Masters so much.
All right, let's jump into the takeaways across Major League Baseball. What do you have, Dad?
All right, Jeff. Mason Miller of the Padres has faced 15 batters and struck out 11. We all know he throws 100 miles an hour, has some of the best stuff in the game. He's unhittable when he's right, pitched in the WBC. But I want to see if you can answer how I omitted him from the all-profession team a couple weeks ago, right?
Oh, yeah. A Miller.
Mason
Miller.
2 professions in one name, and I left him out. It's not like leaving Bo Jackson off the all-college football team that play in the NFL, in the NBA, in the major leagues. That was horrible.
That was really rough.
That was so stupid. But yes, point is Mason Miller is really good, and all the Padres have to do is get a lead, and the game's over when he comes in the game. That's how good he has been so far.
Well, I will say we did get kind of hit hard on your all-Easter team because we left out Jose Iglesias, which in Spanish means churches.
Oh.
That's a pretty good one. I mean, not as hammered as Bo Jackson.
Jeff, all right, look, I'm not pretending that these Team Tims are all perfect. I'm just making them up on the fly. Right. So here we go. All right, Jeff, we've had a ton of injuries in the major leagues. It's just Cade Horton of the Cubs is out for the year. I mean, there's so many of them already. Look at the entire Blue Jay pitching staff is injured right now. And so is Alejandro Kirk, their catcher, who's going to be out for 6 weeks with a fractured thumb. Point is, it's very easy to get hurt playing baseball. And when given it's such a skill sport, these people who think you're a wimpy guy, how can you not play with a broken thumb? You've got to be kidding me. Trying to hit 100 miles an hour and be an everyday catcher with a broken thumb? I don't think so. The point is, the Blue Jays are really struggling anyway. This guy is a middle-of-the-order hitter. John Schneider says his bat-to-ball skills are elite. He's also the best blocker of any catcher in the game.
No doubt.
And catches the ball down in the strike zone because he's so short, chunky, stocky, so good down there. I mean, this is a really big blow. He's also the most popular guy on the team. I mean, a few years ago, he hit his first career triple. And Ernie Clement was at the plate. You know, he was the next batter, and he had to step out of the box because the crowd was just cheering so hard for stocky little Alejandro Kirk. The point is, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
He's going to be out 6 weeks, and they are really going to miss him. And so many injuries out there, it's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom of the Rangers made his 250th start of his career. His ERA through 250 is 2.58. So the only pitchers in baseball history since earned runs became an official stat in 1913 to have a better ERA after 250 starts are Clayton Kershaw 241 and Tom Seaver 242. So Jacob deGrom, third on that list. Now, you know, he's been hurt so many times. It's hard to say, well, he's going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher. He's got a long way to go.
Right.
He's still got to pitch some more to get there, but just shows you when he's right, he's unhittable, and that ERA explains that.
I'm sorry, I just can't unsee Marty McFly right now. I feel like we got to get the flux capacitor and get out of here pretty soon. Every time I look at that vest, it's uncanny.
Yeah, well, we're about the same height, I think, Michael J. Fox and I, but that's...
Speaking of our two lookalikes, Harrison Ford and Marty McFly and Michael J. Fox, did you see that Michael J. Fox appeared on an episode of Shrinking, which is the show starring Harrison Ford?
Right.
And sorry, this is such an aside, I apologize, but I thought it was so cool because Harrison Ford's character in the show Shrinking on Apple TV, not an ad, by the way, it's just a great show, developed Parkinson's.
Right.
And Michael J. Fox played a Parkinson's patient
Right.
in
Right.
the lobby.
Right.
And I'm not going to give away the punchline, but he kind of asked, what are you in for? And Michael J. Fox had a great punchline of like, clearly I have Parkinson's, but I'm in for something different. I don't want to steal the punch because that's not fair to the writers. Go watch Shrinking. It just was a really cool moment. And Michael J. Fox is one of those actors who like is the most beloved of anybody, right?
And how courageous is he to fight through this all these years
And be
still,
on the forefront.
Still be going at it.
Oh, incredible.
God bless
Incredible.
him.
Sorry, continue.
All right, so the Tropicana Field opened up 561 days since they last played a game there. You know, the roof blew off and everything else. And apparently it was a success. People were saying that the roof is a little bit lighter, so it's a little bit easier to see the balls that go up there. So, you know, no great story from this. It's still not a great ballpark, and it's still going to be replaced by a new ballpark at some point once they find a site and build a new stadium. But it's just so much better that a major league team is back in a major league ballpark instead of playing at Steinbrenner Field, a minor league ballpark, for an entire season.
I will say, a friend of mine from high school, Samara, who you know, my friend, she was down in Florida studying and being awesome, and she posted a picture of her at the Trop with a helmet full of soft serve.
Right.
And I messaged her. I said, it's open. She said, it's so great to have baseball back. And she's not even a massive baseball fan. The point is that having a major league team in your town is a big deal. It's the center of culture for so many different teams. Put aside what you think about the Rays or the stadium of that matter. It's something to do. It's something fun. It's an excuse to eat soft serve out of a helmet.
Right.
When else can you do that? Can't do that anywhere.
Right. And our guest for next week, Steve Rushin, talks has talked more eloquently about ice cream in a helmet than anyone I've ever met. I can't wait for Steve
Right.
Rushin on Tuesday. Make sure you tune in. He's the greatest writer in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And he might be the funniest and the smartest person I've ever met, all at the same time.
He's one of those guests where if you're not familiar with him, you should be, but you'll become familiar with him and immediately become a fan of his humor, of his intellect. His intellect, Dad, is so... What's the word I'm looking for? It's not off-putting, right? You know, when you talk to someone who's really smart, sometimes you're like, I don't even deserve to be a part of it.
Or pretense
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
him. Right. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, last thing, Jeff, it got really cold this week, and every time I watch players play in cold weather, reminds me when I went to Walter Johnson High School. Did I ever tell you?
Hey, did you go to
and we would start.
Hey, who's that on the new set?
We would start practice like March the 1st, and it was freezing cold out. We had wooden bats, and you just had to make
Felt
sure.
it ring on your
It
hands.
was the worst feeling. Yeah. So every time I see these guys playing in cold weather, like the Mets were supposed to have 2 games this week at night, and they moved both of them back to 4:10 starts because it would have been too cold to play at night. Ultimate skill sport. It's hard to play baseball when it's really cold out there.
Can I just say there's nothing better than a Major League Baseball game at 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
It's my favorite time.
Right.
It's my absolute favorite. You still get home. You're home at 8 o'clock.
Right.
You're in your bed at 8:30.
Right.
It's the best. It's the best.
It's great. Johnny Oates, former catcher, former manager, one of my favorite people ever, told me once as a catcher, he used to put his catcher's mitt in the microwave oven in between innings in order to keep it warm on those nights when it was really, really cold. And Bill Spires, who was a good shortstop for the Brewers for years, 1994, he told me they played opening day. I double-checked the numbers at County Stadium in Milwaukee. Jeff, Milwaukee, early April, outside, please. 31 degrees. The wind was whipping at 27 miles an hour. So he told me like the wind chill was like 19 degrees. So Cal Eldred, who was a very good pitcher, top of the first inning, he had control issues. The top of the first lasted 32 minutes. And it's 19 degrees. And Bill Spires is the shortstop. And he said, my glove was absolutely frozen. I mean, literally frozen. I couldn't open and close it and he said, and my hands were, and I just kept putting them in my pants just to keep them warm.
Yep.
He said, it's the only time in my entire career I said to myself, please don't hit it to me. That's how cold it can be. Certainly in Milwaukee in April, makes for a really difficult time.
Here's a picture I got from my wife today and said, look what Pop-Pop brought to our house. It's your winter gloves
and hat.
and hat
Right.
that were resting there. It was that cold in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
Right.
That you need those.
I'm not taking any chance with my hands, my head, or my feet. They're going to stay warm no matter what.
Now, before we move forward, we do have some unfortunate news in the baseball world today.
Davey Lopes died at age 80. He was one of the star players for the Dodgers in the 70s and the 80s, played on championship teams, great little second baseman, and one of the great base stealers of all time, stole 557 bases, 82% success rate, which is ridiculously high. Johnny, I just wrote a story for ESPN.com about how you take a lead, a secondary lead, the importance of base running in the major leagues. And Johnny Bench told me that Davey Lopes is the best base runner he's ever seen. Nobody, and I talked to him so many times about this, Davey. Nobody could read a pitcher better than him. He knew when the guy was going home. He knew when the guy was coming over. He knew when it was time to run. And Davey could really run, but he was so much smarter than everyone else on the field when it came to base running. That was his biggest reason for his success. And he became a very productive offensive hitter. Jeff, he hit more homers in his 40s than he did in his 20s. Hank Sauer did that. Raul Ibanez did that. And the last I looked, they're the only 3 who ever hit more homers in their 40s than they did in their 20s. So rest in peace, my friend, Davey Lopes.
We're so excited to be partnered up with GameChanger again this year, and we do a GameChanger of the week each and every week. And I can't wait to hear who you have this week because there's so many to choose from.
Right. And I have several friends who've been listening to the podcast and they say, we use GameChanger all the time. And I knew that. But when I find friends of mine who I didn't know use that all the time, it's really a tribute to it.
I saw a coach friend of mine who coaches his son's team, and his wife put a picture of him on the couch after the game watching the game back. So he's watching tape of the game he just coached because he couldn't watch it because he was coaching,
Well, I'm so glad we didn't have GameChanger around when we had the Pinewood Derby when you finished last out of 136 Cub Scouts. Mom would have taken video of that and sent it to me, and I would have just...
they keep stats for players.
Right.
So my stat would just be DNF. Did not finish.
Did not finish.
Right. Well, who's your game changer of the week,
All right,
Deb?
so there are several of them. Connor Griffin, who we've had on every part of the podcast the last couple weeks, because he's been brought up at age 19 by the Pirates. He signed a deal for 9 years and $150 million. And he gets this contract having not even spent a week in the major leagues. And then shortstop Colt Emerson of the Mariners got 8 years, $95 million. He's never played in the major leagues at all. And Cooper Pratt, infielder for the Brewers, got 8 years, $50 million. So the point is, Jeff, teams are looking at these young players and saying, we're going to wrap these guys up long term.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yes, I've said it a million times. One of the beauties of baseball is you really have to prove yourself in this game before you get paid. Usually you have to finish 6 years to get to free agency before you get paid. But now signing bonuses for college players have really risen. But this, I believe now, this is a really good part of the game because now Pirate fans are saying, we are going to watch Connor Griffin for the next 10 years.
Right.
Unless they trade him, he's not going anywhere. And, with all the, what are the Pirates going to do with Paul Skeens? Are they going to have to trade him? Are the Tigers going to have to trade Tarek Skubal? You are taking your best young players in the organization and sending a message to not just the player and the other players on the team, but the fan base. We are trying to keep our best players long-term and lock them up so no one can get them at least, 3-4 years into free agency. Do you agree with all this?
Listen, I think the best part about signing young players is it brings fans to the ballpark to buy jerseys, to cheer on these teams, and especially for kids who are using GameChanger right now as a little leaguer. They get to think to themselves, wow, he's 19. I'm 12, right? I could be at the show before I know it. If you work hard and you persevere and you do what you got to do and you listen to your coaches. But he's not the only young player getting a big contract. This is kind of a new trend. And this is the game changer are these young guys, big contracts.
Right. And, we just want to alert all 12-year-olds. Connor Griffin might be a generational player. Most 12-year-olds are not going to be in the big leagues at 19. This happens once every 30 years or so. It's not the point. The point is it gives all of our young people hope that if you play the game properly and you have the right mindset and the right mentality like Connor Griffin does, that's how you can get signed long-term. I think it's a very healthy thing for the Pirates, and I think it's a very healthy thing for the game.
Our Game Changer of the week is presented by GameChanger, the #1 youth sports app that helps you coach smarter, connect live, and replay the action. Learn more right now at gc.com. All right, Dad, let's jump into the Quirkjians. What do you got for us?
Well, James Wood of the Nationals is off too. He's really been good this week after a tricky start. So this surprised me a little bit, I must say, Jeff. James Wood's first 5 hits were extra base hits. That doesn't surprise me because in this era, we're looking for production and power and slug as opposed to a soft single to left field. His first 5 hits were extra base hits. I was surprised that he had 17 strikeouts before he hit a single. That sounded like a lot to me. So I checked with the Elias.
Did you call Frank?
Yes, I did. And 3 guys last year, 3 guys got to 17 or more strikeouts before they hit a single. I was a little bit surprised by that. Speaking again to the rise in strikeouts, how hard it is to get a hit. You combine those two. Alex Jackson and Lamont Wade Jr. last year both got to 20 strikeouts before they hit their first single.
Oh, my
And
God.
Jose Siri finished the season with 2 hits, no singles, and 17 strikeouts. So,
Hey Siri, has this ever happened before? Oh, sorry. I actually activated my Siri. Be quiet. Don't actually do that.
Not to be confused with Pete Siri, who we've told you a few
Right.
times on the air.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so the strikeout hit rate, it's not unusual. So I stand corrected. I thought this would be a little bit more rare than it was, but no, it happened 3 times.
You don't
last
know
year.
if you don't ask.
Right,
You got to
right.
ask Frank from the Elias.
And James Wood is going to be a great player, and he's really starting to. And he got a couple singles, and he hit a couple homers. Really, really good.
Big dude,
Right.
by the
So
way.
Jeff,
oh my
I
gosh.
got a kick out of this. On Easter Sunday, there were 12 saves. Now I'm not sure why save on Easter Sunday means anything,
Right.
but there were 12 saves on Easter Sunday. So last year on September 7th, 2025, that was the only day last year that there were 12 saves in one day. So we've already matched the total number from all last year. And also, and this was too late to get into our all Easter team, but on the Sunday night game on Easter Sunday,
Oh, I have this one. I was going to throw it to you.
you knew this?
De Jesus?
Well, name it. Well, who? Emmanuel De Jesus pitched against
Ryan Church?
Nathan Church.
Nathan Church.
Who plays for the
Oh.
Cardinals.
Oh, I didn't even. Yes, I didn't even pick that one up. You made it. I screwed up the guy's name, and then I forgot the team. Blew that. You know what? I'm just gonna leave the Quirkjians to
Jeff,
you. At
I'll
this point.
handle the Quirkjians.
I'll handle the
you,
Quirkjians.
you handle
What
the,
is, what is the reference? I'll handle the yeehaw, son.
I'll handle the funny stuff. What? No, that was good yeehaw, son. Right?
No, I'll handle the jokes. No, we're gonna have to cut this. I'll handle the. Hey, let me handle the what move. You know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
say this all the time
Yeah.
to you, Jeff. I'll handle the funny stuff.
What is it from?
It's me. I've invented that.
You're quoting yourself.
Yes, I told you that. Now, we're gonna cut all of this. I sure hope.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Last Quirkjian, Jeff, is so this was not a big deal, but Ryan Feltner and Ryan Weiss, pitchers for the Rockies and the Astros, were the pitchers of record. Two guys named Ryan. One was a winning pitcher.
Yep.
One was a losing pitcher. And on the same day, Joe Ryan of the Twins got a win, and Ryan Barucki of the Giants got a loss. So 4 guys in one day, either first or last name, Ryan got a decision. And so Ryan is a very, very popular name. Dozens, and I mean, I looked them all up, dozens of pitchers in Major League history have been named Ryan. But the first one that I could find was Ryan Kurosaki in 1975. And then there was a little gap there. Now there are dozens
So
and
many.
dozens of guys named Ryan, but the first Ryan ever to pitch in the major leagues was 1975, and he only pitched like 1 year, and that was it. The point is, names really, really change, and Ryan is one of these names that has been really popular for like the last 25 years.
Well, and you also remember on our street growing up, we had a Ryan Briggs and a Ryan Bridgens.
Right.
Almost the same last name at
Right.
that point.
Right.
Same lettering. I have a pitcher matchup.
Yeah.
This is for today's matchup between the Athletics and the Yankees. Are you familiar with Springs and Weathers?
Right.
Spring weather,
Weathers, right.
Springs,
Right.
Weathers.
Got it, Jeff, I got it.
Is it
got
a stretch?
No, I've done.
Is it a stretch?
No, I have done the all-weather team multiple times, and that's pretty darn good. Springs and Weathers, that's very good.
I don't have much else.
All
That's
right.
it. I've already bombed on my one other Quirkjian.
Yeah, that
so
was really bad. Nathan Church.
maybe
For
sit the next couple
Cardinals,
plays
right.
out.
Yes, okay. All right.
What movie is that?
What?
Champ, maybe sit the next couple plays out. Anchorman.
Oh, look, again,
What?
another funny movie, but I don't know every line to that like you do.
I do.
Right.
Yeah, I spent way too much time watching that movie.
Right. I like Lamp. Okay, here we go.
What do you have, Dad, on this date in baseball history?
So in 1993, Bo Jackson hit a home run in his first game back after getting an artificial hip. And I think we mentioned my stupid artificial right hip multiple times.
I wouldn't call it stupid. It changed your life.
Well,
I'm not trying to be funny,
no,
right?
I can still run. I can still move. I can still do a few things. I just don't want to re-injure this as I try to chase 4 and soon to be 5 grandchildren around. But the point is, Bo Jackson, hip replacements weren't done all that often in 1993. And Bo Jackson being Bo Jackson, maybe the greatest athlete ever to play in the big leagues and maybe the strongest man who's ever played the game, he came back and hit a home run to right field for the White Sox in his first game back from an artificial hip. And, we tell Bo Jackson stories all the time, but I'm going to tell this one again. He used to shoot a bow and arrow. So he brings his bow and arrow into the clubhouse one day with the Royals, all right? And all the players are like intrigued that this is Bo shooting a bow and arrow. So Mike McFarland, who I worked with at ESPN and knew very well as a player, told me that no one on the team was strong enough to pull the string back, load it, and then shoot the arrow. No one was even strong enough to. These are major league players who are unbelievably strong in their wrists and in their hands, and they couldn't even pull it back. Mike McFarland told me he put the bow on the ground and using his foot tried to pull it up with his hands and was incapable of doing it. And Mike McFarland is a strong man. And he said when Bo Jackson pulled back the string to shoot the bow and arrow, it was like he was pulling back the strings of a harp. That's how strong Bo Jackson was.
So it sounds like this was just a bow and arrow.
Right.
Meaning like he was the only one that could use that bow. Bow's bow.
Very good. Leave the W out. Okay. Jeff, on this date in 1945, Peter Gammons was born. For me, Peter Gammons is the greatest baseball writer of all time. I know he taught me so many things about how to cover the game, how to be a beat writer. He essentially invented how you write a game story. The Sunday Notes column that he did, everyone followed it, including me. And he was so generous with his time and his information. I will never, ever forget how great Peter Gammons was. He had a brain aneurysm close to 20 years ago. He nearly died. I wrote his obituary that night because they called me from ESPN and said he might not make it through the night. And of course he did. It was maybe 15 years ago. So, but that's Peter for you. So I'll never forget. I was a beat writer for the Rangers and this mid 80s. And I knew they were making a trade. I just couldn't. I'm the beat writer. I'm covering the team every day. So I called Peter and I said, Peter, God, I can't figure this out. I know my team is making a trade today, but I can't figure out who it is. And the beat writer for the Boston Red Sox, Peter Gammons, said, oh, you guys are getting Cliff Johnson later today. And later that day, the Rangers got Cliff Johnson from the Blue Jays. And I said, Peter.
Not even his team.
Not even his team. So years ago, Jeff, I went to the Braves clubhouse in spring training. And I go to the guard gate to get into the clubhouse. And there's an older guy there. And he sees me coming and I pull out my spring training pass. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, you don't need to show me this. He says, I've been watching you and I've been reading you for 40 years. I know who you are. You don't have to show me that. It's great to see you again, Peter. So he thought I was Peter Gammons, and that is the greatest compliment.
Great, I was going to say.
The greatest compliment anyone could pay to me is that he mistook me for Peter Gammons. That's how great Peter was, and still is.
What else for on this date?
All right, on this date in 2001, Willie Stargell died. Willie Stargell's a Hall of Fame player. More important, he was the absolute We Are Family team captain when the Pirates won the World Series. He won them twice with the Pirates. And 1979, he was co-MVP of the league and the absolute heart and soul, one of the kindest, funniest, gentlest big men I've ever met in my entire life. And the day he died, I'll never forget this. I took a cab to go to PNC Park in Pittsburgh. And it just opened. So this is my first trip there. And it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I get out of the cab to go cover the game. And we hear that Willie Stargell died. Wow. I mean, the day...
And you're there.
I just got to the stadium. It put a damper on the rest of the day. That's how important Willie Stargell was to the game. And he was also hilariously funny. When asked once about trying to hit Sandy Koufax, he said it was like trying to drink coffee with a fork. That's how he called it. Which kind of sums up how great Sandy Koufax was and how funny Willie Stargell was. So the Team Tim this week is a tribute to Willie Stargell because we've been over, Jeff, last year when we did from Ozzy to Oral, the greatest players of all time from 1 to 55. And Willie Stargell wasn't the greatest number 8. It was hard to leave him off, but I came up with the all-team of players that wore number 8.
And this is going to prove to show that this is one of the toughest numbers out there to pick somebody.
Maybe the toughest. And
I think so.
We're going to leave this up to our viewers and our listeners, and we have some really clever people. But, all right, so our catchers, we have 3 Hall of Fame catchers that wore number 8. Yogi Berra, Bill Dickey, and Gary Carter. So we start off with 3 Hall of Famers behind the plate.
I mean, not all 3 of them can catch at the same time, but when you talk about championships, you got to go with Yogi Berra.
Yeah, I would, but that's
and legacy.
I know. And we're not going in.
We
went into the greatest number 8 last year. It'll anger people, so whatever. So Willie Stargell, of course, could play the outfield or first base. For the sake of this Team Tim, we're using him at first base. Hall of Famer Joe Morgan. Again, in the running for the greatest number 8 of all time. Gary Gaetti is the third baseman. Gary Gaetti was a very underrated player, very good for the Twins, played on championship teams. Cal Ripken, of course, is the shortstop, also in the conversation, greatest number 8. Carl Yastrzemski in left field, in the conversation. Andre Dawson also wore number 10, but he wore number 8 for 8 years of his career. Wow. And Albert Bell, first guy ever to hit 50 homers and 50 doubles in a season, he wore number 8. And, it's hard to find a pitcher, Jeff, who wore number 8. It's such so Mike Leake, I remember, Mike Leake wore number 8. So I actually have a pitcher on this team, and I have 8 Hall of Famers that wore number 8. And I looked up, I just went back to number 5, let's say, because that's another one that we debated last year, hardest number. There are 8 number 5s that made it to the Hall of Fame. If someone could find more, I didn't take the time to look for that. Let's just say it's as a tribute to Willie Stargell, the Team Tim is the greatest players ever at each position who wore number 8.
Wow. That is such a Team Tim and such a list. All right, Dad. Well, let's jump into our alpha best. So you mentioned from Ozzy to Oral, 1 to 55, but this season we're doing alpha best.
Right.
A through Z, best hitter and best pitcher at each letter of the alphabet. Right. So we're on to C now.
So to recap, we had Hank Aaron and Grover Cleveland Alexander at A. We had Barry Bonds and Bert Blyleven at B. And C, our hitter is Ty Cobb, who... As much as I love Roberto Clemente, I had to take Ty Cobb here. He had 4,189 hits, career batting average of 366, Jeff. 944 OPS and stole 897 bases. Now, Jeff, I get in so much trouble for this, but if we give Ty Cobb 6 months to figure out how to get a hit in today's game and how to play in today's game, he plays every day for any team in the major leagues, period. And he played well over 100 years ago. I really believe that. He's not my size, Jeff. He's not your size.
He's not Wee Willie Keeler.
Right. He
That's
weighed
usually your go-to.
Of course. He weighed 190 pounds in his prime, and he could fly. So in 1925, he got really angry that some of the writers said, "Oh, Cobb, all you do is hit singles. You couldn't hit for power." So he said, "All right, you guys want to see me hit for power?" So on May 5th, 1925, he went 6 for 6, hit 3 home runs in 1 game, had 16 total bases. And then the next day, hit 2 more homers and just looked at everyone and said, "Look, I can do whatever I want out here. I just choose not to hit home runs every time. I'm a better player when I put the ball in play and steal a base."
And then after that performance, he went on his Twitter account and wrote, "How you like them apples?" to all the writers. One of the first time
I got a number.
I got a number.
Right. All right. C is very difficult because we're running into the same thing as we ran in with Barry Bonds at the B's. All right. My C is Roger Clemens. Now, look, we can't ignore everything else that we know about Roger Clemens, but he won 7 Cy Young Awards, and it's hard to choose him over Steve Carlton, but I did it anyway, and it wasn't easy. Jeff, you can say what you want about Roger Clemens, but his work ethic really was second to none. I'll never forget covering a game that he pitched at Yankee Stadium. And the next morning, I go into the lobby of the hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning, and Edward Bennett Williams, who used to own the Orioles, or owned the Orioles at the time, high-powered lawyer, not easily impressed, just looked at me and said, I just saw Roger Clemens down here. He was going out to run the streets of Manhattan at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No way.
Having pitched the night before. So, and I told you, Jeff, that, the Yankees used to work out at a regular, they would have to get to the ballpark at 7 o'clock every morning for spring training. But on Sundays, they didn't have to get there till like 11. Well, I didn't know that. So I show up really early, 7 o'clock in the morning, and Roger Clemens and the trainer are in the parking lot throwing a football in full uniform.
Wow.
At 7 o'clock in the morning on a day where they don't have to report until 11 o'clock in the morning. So it just shows you the work ethic.
Pays to be up early.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, my turn, Dad. Wheel of Kurkjian. Here we go. So we took some suggestions on social media. So people wanted to weigh in on what should be on the Wheel of Kurkjian. You can always weigh in at greatgameorwhat.com, or you can also just DM us at greatgameorwhat. That means direct message. And that was for you, Dad.
Thank you.
And you got you. And so let's spin the wheel. So these are your suggestions. Let's see how we do it. We deleted or erased last week's that we talked about. Here we go. All right. First one is, what do we got?
Sack flies. Oh my gosh.
Oh, where's the book?
Right.
Oh gosh, I'm fascinated by sack flies. Look at this.
Right.
He named an entire book off of sack flies. I'm fascinated by Sacrifice Flies by Tim Kurkjian. Available now at your local bookstore and on Amazon.com.
Jeff, so I wrote an entire chapter on how interesting sacrifice flies are, but let's just give me one. I'll give you one story where this all started from. Okay, Carlos Lee was playing for the Astros, and he had like 12 sacrifice flies at the All-Star break. Okay, that normally leads the major leagues for a season in sacrifice flies. So the interesting part is that Gil Hodges, the first year that sacrifice flies became official was 1955, and he hit 19 that year. And it remains the record for most sacrifice flies in one season, and he did it the first year that sacrifice flies became an official statistic. So on Baseball Tonight one night, we were talking about Carlos Lee, and I explained this whole thing about Gil Hodges, and I said, Carlos Lee has a chance to break Gil Hodges' record. I'm fascinated by sacrifice flies, to which Steve Berthune, who was the host of the show, and Oral Hershiser, sitting right next to him, looked at me and goes, You're fascinated by sacrifice flies? What is wrong with you? So I tried to explain it, and then I wrote a whole story about all the intricacies of sacrifice flies, how many great stats there are about it, and I stand by it. I'm fascinated by sacrifice flies, but the kicker to the whole thing is that Carlos Lee had 12 sacrifice flies at the All-Star break and did not have another sacrifice fly the second half of the season. I mean, these are the things. These are the things that happen all the time. So that's sacrifice flies. Someone asked to talk about them. That's just one of 100 stories I could tell you about that.
All right, here we go. Next Wheel of Kurkjian. We're spinning. What does it say?
All right, it says
brothers in Major League Baseball. I shortened brothers to bros.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about brothers in the big leagues, the story I told last week about the Uptons asking me what shoe size I wore, that's probably the dumbest brother question ever. Dumb for me, because I'm such dope. I think when you talk about brothers, you have to go with the Alou brothers, who all played on the San Francisco Giants at the same time. Now, they never actually started a game together in all three outfield positions, but they did appear in one game in the outfield after defensive replacements. Jesus, Matty, and Felipe Alou were in the Giants outfield at the same time. And because of the way the batting order was set up, they were hitting they were hitting consecutively in the order. So the Alou brothers are just amazing.
Now, if one were to replace the other and I were the play-by-play guy, I would say, in lieu of Alou, here's Alou. All right, next one.
Not bad, Jeff.
Thank you. Last one. Here we go. Wheel of Kurkjian. What do we got, Dad? What does it say?
Teddy Ballgame. So
Teddy Ballgame.
Tell us a Teddy Ballgame story.
Yep.
Boy, there are a million of them. I'm just going to tell you about and I've told this one before, but it bears repeating. He was at Old Timers Day in 1982, and I'm covering the Rangers. And Bobby Dorr and all these Hall of Famers are out on the field taking batting practice, and out of the dugout comes Ted Williams. And I'm like tingling because here's my father's baseball hero when he was a child. And now he's 5 feet away from me, and he gets into the cage, takes off his jackets because he gotten a little heavy because he's in his 60s. And he digs in just like it was 1941. His setup, his approach, his stance was exactly like my father had told me and exactly like I saw it on all those films all those years. First pitch comes in, and he hits a one-hopper into the bullpen in right center field, which would have been an automatic double.
Right.
Which the first pitch he sees, he hits an automatic double. He hits a laser shot that bounces once and bounces over the fence in right center field. And I'm 10 feet away from this. So I am so excited that I ran up to the press box when batting practice was over, and I called your grandfather. I called my dad. I said, Pop, I just saw Ted Williams hit from 10 feet away. It's exactly like you told me it was. It was absolutely breathtaking. So Ted Williams, there are a million stories. I have a lot of them, but that's my favorite one just because I was there for that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And somebody else, I'll tie this one in too, Dad, and you've mentioned this before on the podcast, but somebody else wrote in, similar to Teddy Ballgame, just how good would Ted Williams have been, granted, legendary already, but how much better would his numbers have been had he not served in the war and left for those couple years?
He would have had 700 homers, and he would have retired as the all-time RBI king. So let's not forget 4.5 years to military service cost Ted Williams a lot. And he's still, for me, after Babe Ruth, the greatest hitter of all time.
And isn't it the most fitting, most beautiful thing that the greatest hitter, arguably one of the greatest hitters of all time, right, was a pilot, which the number one requirement of being a good pilot is having good eyesight. Right? Like people get disqualified immediately if you don't have like 20/20 or even, I don't even know what's better. They don't go to the eye doctor, but you need to have excellent vision. Even if you have too light of eyes, they say you got to go because your eye's not going to respond.
And Jerry Coleman, former major league player, played for the Yankees, served with Ted Williams. And Jerry Coleman told me once he's the greatest fighter pilot I've ever seen. How about that? Wow. So he's arguably the greatest hitter ever, and he's the greatest fighter pilot that Jerry Coleman has ever seen, serving our country. Pretty cool.
All right, Dad. 3 cards in the bathroom to wrap it up. Which cards did you find for us this week? What do you got?
All right, Sandy Alcantara is the first one. Of course, he pitches for the Marlins. Through yesterday at a 0.74 ERA. And he just had a streak of 30 consecutive innings without allowing an earned run that ended going back to last year. And in his first 3 starts, he pitched 24 innings and didn't allow more than 2 earned runs in any of them. The last guy to do that was Kurkjian in 1998. So he's not just showing how good he is, but how durable he is. To be coming out of the box in your first 3 starts and pitch 24 innings, people just don't do that anymore. So Sandy Alcantara, really, really good pitcher. He's had injury issues. It looks like he's back, and he's really, really good. So number 2 is Mark Grudzielanek. I pronounced that for you, Jeff, because I know that you would have never
struggle mightily.
Right. Now, he was a great athlete. He was a really good hitter. He was a really good second baseman. He had these bow legs and pigeon-toed, and I once asked him, did you play basketball a lot? He goes, yeah, I played a lot. But one of the guys he played a lot with in college and other places was Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway, of course, until Allen Iverson came along, had the greatest crossover dribble of anyone in the history of the sport. But Mark Grudzielanek said, when I played with Tim Hardaway, it was like, I have no shot against this guy. Just proving again, Jeff, the different levels of play. You can be a great college player, and then you run into Tim Hardaway, who was a great NBA player, and it's a slightly different level. But just to show you how crazy people are, there used to be the late David Vincent used to be what we called, he was the home run champion. Like he wrote a book about home runs. He was like the guru on home runs. So Jason Stark, our dear friend, asked him to once look up because Grudzielanek and Andy Stankiewicz hit back-to-back homers. This is long time ago. This is 25 years ago or so. And David Vincent looked up that it's the most combined letters, 23, by any two players to hit back-to-back homers in Major League history. Just slightly more than Carl Yastrzemski and Tony Canigliano.
Wow.
Andy Stankiewicz and Mark Grudzielanek. Love it.
So beautiful. Well, as Dad mentioned, next week on the podcast, we have the incredible... Oh, we have one more card.
One more,
I'm sorry.
right.
It's 3 cards in the bathroom, Jeff, not 2 cards. Okay. Walt Weiss, our final one of 3 cards.
And Walt Weiss, he was a shortstop on a championship caliber team. Championship team for the Oakland A's. Went to North Carolina. Really good player. And managed for the Rockies years ago. Never had a chance because the team was so bad. Wasn't his fault. And now he's the manager of the Braves, and he's doing great so far. He's got a really good bullpen. And we saw a fight, Jeff, on Tuesday night. I don't know if you saw.
Yes, I saw
but
that.
Jorge Soler, who's bigger than you and me combined, gets in a fight with Reynaldo Lopez, and who is right in the middle of it, tackling Jorge Soler? Walt Weiss, who's in his early 60s, and he tackled. And Soler's a former teammate of his, and they have a great relationship. So he was just trying to stop him and protect him before anybody really got hurt. I found it odd. A manager is at the bottom of the pile tackling one of the assailants, and that's, it's typical Walt Weiss. He was a really good player, a really tough guy. And by the way, Jeff, he used the oldest glove that I've ever seen. He wore the same glove for his entire major league career because it felt comfortable on his hand. You know how we talk all the time about comfort of a glove, so important. And it was so ugly and so old, he nicknamed it the Creature. So he would wear the Creature for every game that he ever played because it was the glove that made him such a good major league shortstop. The Creature.
The Creature.
I love it.
It's funny, Dad. You gave me this card of Walt Weiss, but stuck to the back of it was a Travis Lee card. So when I turned it around to look at the stats, I was massively confused to see Travis Lee's face.
All right. Well, we have to tell a quick Travis Lee story. Travis Lee threw left-handed, played first base in the major leagues. Okay.
Uh-huh.
He was a high school quarterback, and he threw a football with his right hand. So he's one of those guys who threw a baseball with his left hand and threw a football with his right hand. Now, you explain that to me someday, Jeff. How could that be? And he told me he can't throw a football left-handed and he can't throw a baseball right-handed, but he can do a football and baseball with the other hand. How strange is that?
So strange.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on a rookie card of Travis Lee here,
right.
which is pretty neat. And it's stuck to Walt Weiss. Oops. All right. Well, maybe someone will tell us if that has some value. Well, Dad, this was so great to have you back in the basement here. I'm so blessed to have you coming up to help us watch our daughter. McKinley, as my wife, is 31 weeks pregnant. Just unbelievable. So thank you for coming up.
And what do we have to look forward to next week? Monday, we have a show that'll run on Monday, and we'll do a look at Jackie Robinson Week, right?
Yeah, it's big, and you're going to be broadcasting for Jackie Robinson Week, so that's really big. We'll have some more info on that on Monday. Tuesday, friend of the show, Steve Rushin. He may have 2 or 3 kids. Inside joke. Go back and listen to our last interview. It was great. He's going to join us. And little fun fact, I'm going to be at Disney World with my daughter and my wife and my in-laws next week. So I'm going to be doing the show from the most magical place on earth, Disney World. So maybe we could ask our listeners to come up with an all Disney team, whether it's Disney characters or something like Disney movie references. Could be kind of cool.
Yeah. Bob Pinocchio will be our shortstop.
That could work.
No such player as Bob Pinocchio.
Is there a McQueen out there?
Well, Lightning McQueen. Of
Well,
course,
I was talking baseball player, Dad. I'll handle the Disney references.
Yes. All right. Now we have to do a Disney reference, right?
We have
You're
to
gonna
do a
be
Disney
there.
Team Tim.
All right, boy, I'm
God,
on
that
it
was
now.
the harshest exhale I've ever seen you make.
Yeah.
You're nervous now. You're going to need a plane ride right now to make this happen with no
I'm
Wi-Fi.
going to need a plane ride to England to make this one happen. Right.
We'll make it happen. Hey, thank you so much for listening. And as always, thanks for being a part of our family.